Welcome back inside the Now Morning Show. It's Tobago Thursdays, and we head across to Tobago to get some feedback as it pertains to Budget 2023-2024 inside your Spotlight on Now.
On this morning's edition of Spotlight, we talked to Curtis Williams, who is the chairman of the Tobago Division of the TT Chamber of Industry and Commerce. Good morning, Mr. Williams, and welcome to the show.
Good morning to our viewers and listeners, and thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you with us this morning as we speak about the Tobago stance on the budget that was read on Monday. Now, one of the main things that everybody's talking about is Tobago's allocation. How are you feeling about that right now?
Well, Natasha, let's look at the allocation, and we see the recurrent $2-point-something billion and the development $260 million. Just looking at the figures, we definitely know that under development, we are a bit short there on funds, as you can see. So I know the THA would have a bit of challenge going forward, using that funds to do much development needed on the island. We look at the budget, and we look at what Ministry of Works. We're doing a lot of work on the highways, and I didn't hear anything about Claude Noel Highway in Tobago, and that highway needed much repairs, maintenance, etc. So looking at that 260, I know it will be a bit of challenging for the THA going forward.
Okay, so once it's a challenge, I'm assuming that would mean that you will be able to pull out from what is available and what needs the most work right now and apply it to that, well, via the state enterprise. Is that correct?
Well, basically, because that development of 260 million have to be spread out among all development throughout the entire island. We're talking about hospital equipment and all development projects that need that sort of funding. And the 260 will definitely not do it at all. And then going back, we knew that there was some funds owed by contractors, millions of dollars, and we thought that somewhere along the line, the minister would have sent some funds to take care of that back. I don't want to call it expenses, but those contractors were owed these millions of dollars gone by from the last regime, and haven't been paid to date. Some have received a bit of it, but others are there waiting. And there's a ripple effect when you don't pay your bills on time, because these contractors hire subcontractors as well as mechanics, electricians and laborers and etc. And all these folks are waiting on their monies. Even the hardware stores, they haven't been paid from since then. So it's a ripple effect when you're owing and you're not paying. So we expected some fund to be passed for that purpose, but we didn't see that at all in the budget.
Now, as you mentioned, expectations in particular, Mr. Williams, one of the things that many had expectations about is minimum wage. I'm tying this in, of course, to what you just mentioned with regards to the millions owed, because we're hoping that with time we're going to be able to see some sort of contribution or at least some sort of payment in that area. But let's go to minimum wage for a quick moment, because I know $20.50 is something that many were not expecting and some were. How do you feel about that, and how do you think it's going to trickle down into the Tobago economy?
Well, as you're well aware that Tobago is very, very, very small. So a minimum wage for some of these small enterprises may have some effect on them. Let's look at the security industry. It's a lot of labor intensive. 80% of their cost is salaries. So when you add that $3, it will be $3 to the worker, but to the business, it won't be $3, because you have increase in NIS, you have increase in insurances that you have to pay, and you have increases in other things that you do that the worker don't know that you contribute to. And so hence the reason that minimum wage will have an effect, especially in the security industry. And some of these contracts with the government are pegged on bare minimum wage. I mean, some pay a rate of up to $24, $25 an hour. So If you're receiving $24 an hour or $25 an hour from a government or THA enterprise, you can imagine you now have to pay, and the expectation of the worker is not minimum wage. Who wants to pay $20.50? Some of us would like to pay 22 and so forth and going up because we want the workers to enjoy more of their money. But if you're only getting 24, 25 coming in, it's very difficult to do that kind of calculation.
There's no doubt that it is difficult. Of course, we have been sitting down and taking a look at what the monthly intake, intake would be with the minimum wage, which I know, of course, is something that is going to be worked on. But I love the fact that you also mentioned SMEs, because that definitely has been a point of concern. Some have said that this increase in minimum wage is that perfect spot that both are going to be able to benefit. Do you agree with that?
No, I mean, it's as I indicated, we applaud the minimum wage. Yes, the minimum wage need to increase, but I think when we're going out to tender for contracts for the THA or the government, we expect them now to take that into consideration. They must look at the figure in which you put in that bid document in and ask yourself how much is actually going to be paid to the workers, and hence the reason why when someone do give a low bid, then you said, no way, you can't afford to pay a worker $21 an hour and survive, you know, and your bid is $24. It's no way going to happen. So these are things that definitely must be taken into consideration going forward.
Something that also needs to be taken into consideration is the THA's relationship with central government. What is your view on that?
Well, as we all know, it's not of the best. And I'm appealing to the Prime Minister, the goodly honorable Prime Minister, to meet out to the Chief Sec and bury the hatchets and let's move forward. It's the best interest of the island, and we want the two entities to be having that cordial conversation. So we pleading on the Prime Minister, please meet out to the Chief Sec. I know it's a bit hard, it's a bitter pill for you to swallow, but please meet out to the Chief Secretary and have that conversation with him once more for the best interest of the people of Tobago.
Talking the best interest of the people in Tobago is definitely something that many have spoken about consistently, of course, and people have said, yes, this is in the best interest of Tobago with the budget, with the additional allocations. And one of the things that is in the best interest of Tobago is security, particularly, of course, national security, which we saw got a rich allocation. But speaking to the Chief Secretary earlier on this week, one of the things that he did mention is not having that control of the TTPS who are on the ground in Tobago. What are your thoughts on that allocation and the tripling of police for 2024?
Well, we know definitely there's a shortage of police officers, and we are happy that they're going to do some much more recruiting. And the challenge there is the management of the manpower. You could have more officers, yes, but if the manpower is not managed properly, then you still have the same problem as before. Even equipment, we see a couple millions going towards equipment and vehicles. But when we pass a couple of the stations in Tobago, we see the yard is filled with vehicles that have been damaged from accidents. And I ask myself, is the management of those vehicles need to take into consideration? Maybe they probably look at a different model. Why not lease instead of purchasing? Probably lease 100 vehicles and let the leasee manage the whole maintenance, because maintenance for the police service is a nightmare. So I know for a fact, when we look at that. But let's stretch the conversation a little bit wider. National security on its whole. When I look at Tobago, I visit the Scarborough prison. Prison is almost in the sea, and the whole building is falling apart. When we look at the fire service, the Scarborough Fire Station have burnt a couple of years ago, and up to now, the guys can't move back into that station, and they're operating in probably a shed or a ranch. And so we definitely, I asked the Minister of National Security to pay us a visit across in Tobago and see the different entities that have been suffered. The Coast Guard commander can't even operate in Tobago because there's no accommodation for him. So he have to fly to Tobago ever so often. Imagine you're in charge of Tobago and you're not here. So you're doing your operation via Zoom and other means. That's really hurtful. So I'm asking the Honorable Minister of National Security come across to Tobago and see the kind of conditions these men and women are really trying to survive under, and you will have an idea when you're going to do your allocation to put something more for the Tobago side of it.
Mr. Williams, what recommendation would you give for the entire budget as a whole when it comes to Tobago?
Well, I know for a fact that we definitely will need some more funds. I know the THE have to get very creative. They have to find other means of raising funds. Even when we ask about the direct investment, foreign investment, we ask for the appeal of the land license. We ask if the THE can manage it or just take it away entirely, so we could boost investment on the island. So these are some of the things that definitely the THE must get creative and start to look at ways of getting funds in the island, because it will be very difficult with the $260 million trying to do development work across the island, trying to maintain the roads and all that projects that definitely needed for us here in Tobago.
Now, one of the things that we also saw from the budget was some investment, particularly looking at attracting foreign direct investment in key sectors in the economy itself, focusing on mega farms, the agricultural research institutes, and along, of course, with the revitalization of tourism. Do you think that this is something that is going to positively impact Tobago once it's implemented correctly?
Well, and hence the reason why we asked for that conversation, because if the THA is trying to attract direct foreign investment, there must be some conversation with central government. So the Ministry of Finance or the Prime Minister, his office ought to have some kind of relationship with the Chief Sec office, and hence the reason we asking for a better relationship between the two entities. And we would definitely push to that. I mean, within the budget itself, there are some goodies, there are some things that sounds great. The SME loan guarantee program, that was good, and it works out for a good bit of us here in Tobago. The SME Forex facility that hopefully will come on board, that could be as good as well. And we really want to hear how the breakdown of it and how it's going to work, because we just don't want the bigger business to get all the allocations, and the small guys in Tobago can't, the boutiques and all the electronic stores and the other small people who depend on Forex for their survival. We just don't want them to be put aside and you just only cater for the big guys. The e-payment for government services, that is great. So you don't have to be traversing up and down trying to pay simple things like taxes, etc. You can stay at your office and pay. Those things are terrific. They are great. And so we look forward to some of those great things. But the other part of not giving us in Tobago as a sizable amount of funding for development, so that we could start to move that whole sector, that commerce could start happening, and the trickle-down effect to go down to the people.
And the people will definitely receive. A quick question, because we're hearing a lot in the conversation about not enough funds being allocated to Tobago, but it was also been reported that what Tobago requested is what has been given. What exactly is the disjointedness in that allotment?
Well, no, as I mentioned, the debt owed by contractors is over. I think the numbers bantering around is something about a couple hundred millions. And so out of what will you pay these contractors? This was debt that they incur from the last assembly. And if you only give me $260 million to treat with development, and we can't pay all that money into the debt, because if you do that, then you won't have any money for any kind of a development. And within the last how much instances where we have landslips, etc., going up to the east in Tobago, you see the condition of the roads. They are in dire need of repairs. So we definitely need the funds. There's no two ways about it. We can't just leave it alone.
Okay, interesting. Thank you so much for that, Mr. Williams. Do you have any closing comments before we wrap our conversation?
Yeah, sure. I noticed that there were challenges. I remember the minister mentioned how 72% business account don't have business account, and it is definitely a challenge opening a business account. I'm into business all my life, and I can tell you, and just recently I've been at the bank, and opening a business account is not an easy task. Is really not an easy task. I do it for myself. Even attaining a debit and credit card machine, I'm waiting a year and a half for one of those machines. And then when I do get the machines, the cost is 4 to 5%, that we pay as a small business as compared to a larger business who would pay probably 1%. So it's not just a cut and paste high drive for everyone. There are instances where we do have challenges opening those business accounts, and we need the banks to look at the procedures, look at the process, and then sometimes when you open the account, they give you a savings account. So what
Yes.
you're going to do with the savings account, deposit a check and then have to go and get the cash now and pay your bills. So that don't make any sense at all. So they need to really look at it and just don't put it as one size fit all.
Thank you so much for your comments, Mr. Williams. Thank you so much also for being with us on the Now Morning Show. Looking forward to having you back again soon to continue the conversation. Have a great day.
Okay then. Thank you and enjoy.
Curtis Williams, Chairman of the Tobago Division of the TT Chamber of Industry and Commerce. Stay tuned. We'll be right back after this break with some more on Tobago Thursdays.